Do you have a recipe for an organic fertilizer blend made with single ingredient fertilizers? I currently have blood meal, bone meal, triple superphosphate, and green sand. I like to use this blend in my container plantings, and this is Cassandra. So Cassandra, we're just gonna, just step back here. We're gonna let Peter handle this for us. So go ahead, Peter, what you got for us?
So the first thing I'm gonna say is get a soil test.
All right, get a soil test.
Because that tells
Yeah,
you
there you go.
what you have. Because a lot of the time, if not most of the time, your soil has enough phosphorus and potassium. You don't need to add any of that. And some of the things that she talked about are phosphorus and potassium.
Yes.
So when you get a soil test, a lot of times when you come back, when the soil test comes back, it's not going to tell you anything about nitrogen.
Okay.
Because in the week between when you took the soil test and when the results came back, the nitrogen in your soil could have changed dramatically. Nitrogen only lasts a short time in the soil, so it's always changing. Now, when to add nitrogen to the soil, do some research on the plants you're growing and see what the recommendations are. So, if it's corn, you side dress with this much at this point in the growth cycle. So it's things like that, and learn what the general practices are, and then side dress at that point with nitrogen.
And I'll make a note. If you have your soil tested through UT Extension, they will tell you what those recommended levels for plants are.
It's that specific. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said the recommended level. So they're going to say, the soil test result, depending on where you get it, will come back and say, well, if you're growing this, then at this point in the growing cycle, add, let's say, 1 pound of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet. Now, that is a synthetic fertilizer, 10-10-10. You're wanting to use organics, which is fine. So you just have to do the conversions. And there's some math involved in that. And this math applies to both organic fertilizers and synthetic fertilizers, because you may not have 10-10-10 in your garage. Maybe you have 13-13-13 in your garage. How do you do the conversion? Well, it's fairly straightforward. So blood meal is about 13-1-0. Bone meal is 3-15-0, and triple superphosphate is 0-46-0. So lots of phosphate there.
Yes.
And first number is nitrogen. Second number is phosphorus. Thank you. Second number is phosphorus. Third number is potassium. And then you also mentioned green sand, which contains phosphate, but it's not in a regular amount, and a lot of times the bags aren't labeled as to how much there is. So that's kind of you're not really sure. So anyway, so let's say that your soil test recommends 1 pound of 10-10-10 per 100 square feet of synthetic fertilizer. So I need 10 nitrogen, 10 phosphorus, 10 potassium. Well, blood meal is 13-1-0. So how much, that's mainly nitrogen. So how much of that do I need to equal the 10 in the 10-10-10? And so what you do is you take what is recommended number divided by the number of what you have. So in this case, it's going to be 10, because that's 10-10-10, divided by 13, 13-1-0. So that means that
Need a blackboard up here.
That means you need 0.77 pounds, and these are all in weight, to have the same amount of nitrogen. So you need 0.77 pounds of blood meal to have the same amount of nitrogen as there is in 10-10-10 fertilizer.
So now you've got nitrogen taken care of.
Now you got nitrogen taken care of, and a tiny bit of phosphorus, because you have a 1 in there. So now you move on. Bone meal is 3-15-0. So if you want to just do the phosphorus, you're going to do 10, which is the 10-10-10, divided by 15, 3-15-0, and that means you need 0.66 pounds of that to equal the same amount of phosphorus that is in 10-10-10. Now you have 3 of nitrogen in there, so if you want to do that, then you'd probably cut down a little bit on the blood meal and keep the bone meal there, and you're going to end up with roughly the equivalent of 10-10. You still don't have anything in the last part, but none of the products that you listed there have the third number.
That's right.
But go back to the soil test. It is likely that you already have enough of that you don't need any of it, because it tends to stay in the soil a lot. Same thing kind of goes with phosphorus. So be careful before you dump the bone meal on. You may already have enough phosphorus. So it all goes back to the soil test.
Always goes back to the soil test. And we're thinking about the phosphorus. Come on, Celeste. Triple superphosphate.
Triple
Yeah.
superphosphate.
It's going to be a lot.
That's a lot of
It's gonna be
phosphorus.
A lot of phosphorus.
And I will say, you know, I've looked at, I can run reports and see soil sample averages for Madison County, which is the county that I'm an agent in.
Okay.
And we, 85% of the time, have plenty of phosphorus
That's what I
and
said,
plenty
Shelby.
of potassium. And so the majority of our recommendations are looking at the nitrogen requirements based on crop. And that's pretty much it, aside from lime. We tend to be pretty acidic, so sometimes we have to have some lime added there to bring that back up. But definitely just being conscious of all those things that y'all talked about. I know that there's a lot of talk around this green sand product. A lot of
Yeah.
people are loving to use
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know, it's labeled organic because
Yeah.
it is coming from the earth. It's,
Sure.
you know, a product. Yeah, so it can be beneficial in helping improve soil texture and water holding capacity. That's one of its kind of really cool qualities that people love, is it can hold a lot of water. But as far as providing nutrients, that wouldn't be my main drive for using that product as an amendment in the
I
soil.
agree with that, yeah. It allows for good pore space, but yeah,
Yes.
outside of that, I don't know about the nutrient content so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed. To subscribe, click below.